This is IBM Museum, and I'm preparing for a live stream tomorrow morning. That's Saturday, March 12th at 10 a.m. my local time. That's Mountain Standard Time, GMT -7. That calculates out to be noon Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. With the GMT -7 for 10 a.m., you can do the calculations if you're outside the continental United States, or just go to my channel and click on the reminder button, and you'll get the reminder for the time it is before I go through and do my live stream. So the topic of tomorrow's live stream will be working with a diskette drive adapter. I hope I'm getting prepared enough. I've got the box of GoTech stuff I have behind me. Going through, I've got, I'll have to dig up some other diskette drives and even trying to have some models of systems here in enough time. Hopefully I can go through and get a sample and have them all work for me. But, I've got time enough to go through and move that around. But one of the things that I kind of hit against in a previous video, I've got the L40SX out, and even though I do have to that backup battery in there, I've got to get inside there deeper and replace that battery, but I didn't have a reference diskette in this hand on hand, and it is a reference diskette for the L40SX, as strange as it may be, and I'll explain how those come out in a moment. But years ago, I had a whole library of diskettes that if I was working on a particular model, just sort through, and I would have a diskette that I could pull out for that system. And so typically the reference diskettes, they're talking about the microchannel systems model 50 and above are a reference diskette. Although there are some models that are below 50, like the L40SX, that have a reference, they actually call it a reference diskette, although typically the ISA models will have just what is considered a starter diskette. And I think the difference is a little bit where the starter diskette aspect, it's not as critical to the system configuration. Reference diskette is always that critical nature. And even though in late model PS2s, IBM did create that convenience partitions or IML, just that initial machine load partition that you had in effect, that reference diskette on the hard drive of the system. If you have a failing drive on the earlier PS2s, that diskette drive is a pretty critical thing. And that's what the live stream tomorrow we're going to deal with, the ways to get around, even to put a GoTech into the system. And I need to catch up on a lot of that, because since I've done GoTech related stuff, it's moved in a lot of ways out there, and there's been new models released and everything that I need to get a little bit more caught up with, and even going to the point of considering putting these images on one of those USB drives as well, and get on a GoTech and what I would have to dial in basically for each particular referenced diskette, star diskette, or whatever else. But so in this case, I want to go through, I've got enough diskettes around, and I'll go through and I'll build the L40SX reference diskette up for when I get that battery backup swapped out on the unit and get the unit further along. I'll just do that as a demonstration showing how I can go through and create the L40SX image. But let me get off the internal webcam here, get turned around a little bit, and I can flip over to my I've got my video capture set up on the tweener system. Now I do also have on this, for this background panel, I do have my little Think Center unit, and as you notice, I have the little USB diskette drive, and this would be a common thing that people would get these in this age for being able to read a diskette or to work with diskettes in any form. And this is a 64-bit system, and I can get into at some point the topic of getting the, once the image is on a 64-bit system that you've gone through and downloaded, going here to the Ardent tool, and there's even a section for the PS2, all the reference and diagnostic and option disk up here. And I'll provide this link in the video description. I realize with the lighting, especially for the backlight of this, I could probably even go through kind of for a maybe look at more of a dark mode or something else. But there's a lots of links in here, including for the L40SX, and then all the, even at the option disk at the bottom, you have the adapter, various adapter diskettes called option diskettes there, and even organized just completely off in its own page. And it's even possible, it's about a compressed 57 megabyte image, that at the very bottom of that, you can actually get all the files on that page wrapped up in one giant thing that you can expand out in your system, download it once, and basically you have all these diskette images within that file, that big file, to once you uncompress it, and you can do that way. I've actually done that on some of the systems here, but I'm just going to go through that. If you are looking, you just got a PS2, you're looking for where the reference diskette is for that. Well, you go to the Ardent tool, and it's right there in a link of the IBM PS2 reference diagnostic and option disk. Now, getting switched over to my Windows XP system, and of course, this is 32-bit. I'm not that crazy to where I would have anything other than I'd want to run the 64-bit version of Windows XP. But on here, it's a very easy process, and I can go through and show my example. And no iProfiler, I don't care. Just seeing that I'm moving the mouse or something else. And normally what I've been doing in the past here is my local dist is where I have the Windows XP install, the MS-DOS 6 on the C drive is the dual boot nature, where I can boot to MS-DOS, and I have a ref disk folder within it that's real easy to go through and just switch the file over here once I've downloaded it, to be able to go through and to do an image of it if it's a self-extracting diskette. Or I've also got the Win image program on this system. So let's go through and go to just the Ardent tool. In this instance, I'm actually going to go, rather than to that big repository of files, and as we're scrolling down, we have under software and drivers, there is that PS2 reference diagnostic and option disk, that link for where all those files are together, even reply files and Kingston files, things like that are in that area. I'm going to go down to the IBM systems. Once I click on that link, and I'll go through and I can put myself, let's get to where I'm at least partially on the screen. And going down, now the portable units are listed down below. It's desktop and tower systems first. And so there's the L40SX. And under the, so under the planar, there is the reference diskette, and that's a self-extracting file. So let's go through. We're going to save that. Just click on it, save it. Of course, it shows it up here in the downloads section. And I'm going to go through, I'll click on that directory. And it's showing there in the directory. So I'm going to go through and I'll make a copy of it. And I'll go all the way back on out to my DOS directory. And I will put it within that directory. And as it is, it shows those in order that I've basically put files over. And let's go through and even, this is kind of the old school way of creating these diskettes. And this takes a little bit of time to go through and to put up. I've got my labels for the diskettes. Once I go through and create them, we'll get to the where it boots to DOS. As I say, this takes a little bit of time with the way that I have it set up. Okay. We should get a beep here. It'll give the splash screen again. And the reason that I've had that diskette in the drive. And now that I've got it going through, I know it'll prompt me for the zip drive. That it won't detect a zip. I don't have a zip drive on it, so I have to press a key. But it continues just fine. So yeah, I had the diskette in the drive, and it's even I've got these diskettes. Like I say, I'll go through and I'll make my own labels, but I've got a whole bunch of these diskettes around, and to go through, I may have to use the Gooby Gone to get the labels and everything else fully off these things. And even for if I go through and create some IBM reference diskettes and star diskettes, I've got even these IBM. And of course, I'll go through if it's anything that's kind of cool on these on these diskettes. I'll go through and archive those over in there. They got some sort of line or something else on these IBM high density disk. And just be aware that some of these images are 720 KB, which has its own little process for um, creating a diskette. I can go into that at some point. Let's get flipped back over. I realize there's kind of two places at once there with the phase difference, but we're going to go through and change into that directory. We're going to do a directory listing, and that's the last file that we transferred over to that directory. So we're just going to go a RFL 40103. Okay. And enter to read the license agreement. Enter to continue. Enter to continue. Okay. If you agree, type Y for yes and press enter. Okay. Insert a blank high density diskette in drive A, press enter to extract or escape to exit. And certainly if you have a diskette that has items on it, it just go through and it'll overwrite it as it goes through and creates that. So going through, and I mean, I can just get an assembly line going and get it to where I have a diskette, just every sort of diskette that I would need for any of the PS2 systems or anything like that. I can get those made and have those filed. That it's just a matter of me going through and reaching for the bin. And I may still have a bin somewhere that's got, a few diskettes, but I want to go through and I want to get a library established again of those diskettes, just so I don't have to go through and detract to where I have to maybe pull out a system that's got a diskette drive or something of that nature, to do that. And as I say, I plan on other videos to where I can go through and show for how to write those images to a GoTech device. If you've had to do a replacement of your diskette drive on your system, and certainly that live stream tomorrow, I'm going to be going through and to checking that out to to try and have a system, and we can look at attaching a GoTech or conventional 1.44 megabyte diskette drive to a system and see how that works. And so at the end of that self-extracting process, just, it asks why to do another copy. And it's the same thing as MS-DOS of you going through and formatting, even creating a system diskette, that it'll prompt you at the end of that if you want to create another diskette of the same exact style. And you could go through and you could have duplicates of, the diskettes for the system, have two of them, and that way if one went bad or something else, hopefully that image on the second one. But I'm just going to go through and have, of course, one diskette per at this point. And so otherwise, if you press any other key, it just goes through and gets you back to the command prompt. So this diskette has all the files. In fact, let's do that again. Let's do just a directory pause just to kind of show the Oh, okay. It's going to be directory A. Uh, yeah, directory A. Pause. I've seen files there that are saying, no, that's not on the diskette. So the set clock, backup exe, there should be the ps2.exe is very critical for the L4DSX of setting parameters of the system. So there is, and then there's even the expanded memory manager that should be on here. There's the diagnostics files that are there. So all sorts of those files being on, high-end sys, smart drive sys, idle, the power management sys file, for something like be it DOS or Windows. I'd have to even look a little bit more. But all those files are so critical for the system to go through and configure it and have even some utilities and things like that you would need for that. So that's going through and extracting the L4DSX image, and I'll have other videos to show different ways to go through and extract those images, or how they can be stored sometimes in a zip arrangement. And that's fairly easy with the modern operating systems to go through, and it'll uncompress those files very easily in that operating system. But we can address all that and kind of see the different ways, and hopefully, at least even for someone that's maybe even new to this stuff, and like I say, just got a PS2 and going through, has identified what it is, the ability to go right to the Art and Tools site and to find the reference diskette that you would need for that model to be able to get it configured. Just a wonderful thing. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click on that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. I look forward to seeing people in the live stream tomorrow, and can go through and chat and ask questions and things like that. We'll have that topic and looking at that diskette drive adapter that adapts from a PS2 style drive in the 34-pin connector to a more conventional 1.44 megabyte drive, or the Gotek adapters, because those PS2 diskette drives can be bad so much of the time. So I hope you tune into that as well. But this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.